All right, we'll get started here. We're running a couple seconds late, so hopefully we can have more going so we have time for Katie to do her thing and answer questions and stuff. Before we get started, Destiny is going to come up and talk a little bit, or stand up and talk.
Hi. I'll just talk from here.
Whatever works for you.
So I just wanted to share some things with you. As most of you probably know, and some of you might not, I work on tobacco in Marathon County from the Transform Wisconsin grant. And I just wanted to share a couple of things with you. First of all, there's going to be the sign-in sheet going around, and I will ask you if you're interested in doing anything in tobacco to please check that. We're looking at possibly doing a community assessment to see what products are in our area, and then also look at the e-cigarettes and kind of what we have in our area. A few new things have popped up. In Rib Mountain, there's a Vapo bar now, and so we're looking for people that would be interested in going into these establishments and kind of doing an assessment to see what's available. And then also I wanted to share with you that today the FDA held a press conference about a new campaign that they're doing. It's a youth campaign, and basically they're looking at running some TV ads, some print ads, to share information with youth on initiating smoking, and they're focusing on health effects, but in the sense of like the immediate health effects, so wrinkles and things that you can see on the outside. And then also they're focusing on a loss of control, so teens are just starting to gain their control and their independence, and what we know is an addiction kind of takes over their control. So I just want to share those things with you. Again, if you're interested in being involved in the assessment, please check that on the sign-in sheet, because we're going to try to do an educational session on the new products and the vaping and things like that. So that's all I wanted to share. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Destiny. And like she said, we have sign-ups going up. These are the same sign-ups. We're going to start one on each side. If you've been here in the past, you will already have your name on here. It's alphabetical if you can just do that. If you are a guest, there is a section on the back here that you can fill in your information. And again, in yellow is the survey that Destiny was talking about, if you have interest in that.
And if you are a guest, indicate that you're interested in working on tobacco on where you signed in. And despite what Bob said, there's a chance that you might not, if you have been here before, you might not have updated the sign-in sheet effectively. So if you don't find yourself, make sure you add it.
All right, so everybody, we passed out the minutes from the last meeting. So if you do see any changes or anything glaring that needs to be changed, let Melissa or Aaron know so we can get that changed. As far as treasury report, currently we have, as of the last AOD board, we have $2,237.78 in our AOD checking account, and then there is $1,600 in our AOD fund through the Community Foundation, which we just started a couple months ago. So that's great to see that that's growing as well. We still need one volunteer for the audit committee. Every year we have to go over our books. It sounds overwhelming. It's a very easy process. We need 3 people that are not on the board that are members to, they basically just look over and look at the checks we wrote and make sure that everything's in line and stuff. I know I did it a few years ago, and it literally took us 15 or 20 minutes to do it because we don't write a lot of checks. So if anybody has any interest in that, it's going to be...
Is there anyone? Would anybody have time next Tuesday for half an hour in the morning to help out with our audit? Kendi does. Perfect.
Excellent.
We need one more person. But Ethel, if you want to be there too, you can. We just need 3. So if you want to come for coffee.
Yeah, it's 7:30 to 8 at Vino Latte on Grand and Thomas. So
7 to 7:30. 7 o'clock. I changed that.
I'll have to refer to both agendas to make sure I'm right. Yeah, 7 to 7:30 at Vino Latte at Grand and Thomas. Over this last fall, Melissa and I and Nancy Cedar and then Sandy Grass attended some sustainability for nonprofits. And what we did is, the stuff we learned there, we talked to our board, and they did a survey to see what were some of the top priorities from what we learned, and strategic relationships and fundraising were 2 of the issues that came up. So as a board, we're going to have sit down and have a meeting, and we are going to create a dashboard, which is basically shows you where you're going, what the priorities are, and kind of gives a timeline and stuff. So we will be doing that, and obviously once we get that, we will share that with everybody. Last Thursday, we had the 4th annual January celebration at Jefferson Street Inn. We had 75 plus people that attended. There is some extra programs around, so if you weren't able to attend and wish to see what went on, please grab the program, see what it was about. We did recognize, we have spotlight winners, awards that we give out every year. This year we gave out 5. Deb Piscotti for her work with the Wausau Health Services, Tammy Gorski, who's on faculty at NTC and very involved with substance abuse. The Dixon family, who lost her son last March on Thomas Street because of heroin. They've done great things this year. Kinsey Green Marketing, who really helped us with the pushback, and not only pushback, but other areas. They've given us a lot of information. We've learned a lot from them, and they're very, very helpful people. And the Judd S. Alexander Foundation, who's a community foundation who gives money to local efforts and stuff, and they are very helpful to us. So those 5 people actually were recognized that night. We will have pictures on Facebook once they're ready, so you'll be able to look at those and see what's happening there. The annual partner survey will be coming out at the end of the month, and that will be a link on our update, or the update will be linked on our site. So look forward to that, and we will let Melissa talk about the annual report.
Okay, so in front of you, hopefully, I don't have a copy up here with me. Can somebody, Bob, can you hold yours up to me? Can you hold your annual report up, please? Thank you. So hopefully you have a copy of your annual report in front of you. It's really exciting that this is the first time that we've ever done such a report. There's a number of times that we've been asked, what is it that you're all about? And we wanted to make sure we shared that with you all today. Let me make sure I pull up the right one. So, I'm not going to go through page by page because I think that you're going to get that opportunity. But we took some pictures from some of the initiatives and things that we've done throughout the year. This is one of my favorites right here, Mr. Alexander, front and center. Nice. Just to kind of highlight all the things that's happened. And you'll notice, we have our board, our 2013 board on the left side, and then a message from Wally, who I don't think is here today, the Chief of Police over at Evanston Metro. He shared a message on what it meant to be part of the board over this last year and where we're going. The second page, well, I guess it would be the third page, the membership page is why it's so important that when we send out the link for our weekly update, that everybody takes it. Because it's that information that really helps us justify why should we have people invest in us? Why do people want to get involved in what we do? So this is just some of the highlights from our last year's partner survey. The activities, obviously we were definitely busy, so we tried to highlight some of those things that we did over the last year. And we're going to continue doing this throughout this year. A lot of what we've done, we're going to continue doing. We're going to look at doing more in the community. When we look at this, the year, we look at 2013 as the year of the initiative. We launched 2 major initiatives this last year that we're really proud of, and we highlighted at our celebration with our Real Happy Hour and our Pushback Against Drug Abuse initiative. And this results page is one of our goals is to collect more information on how people view our training. So all of you should have a copy of our evaluation form today. Looks like this. So even if you have to leave early, please still fill this out because we want to make sure that we're showing that we're teaching you guys something as well as if the way that we're doing it is effective. So any suggestions that you have, we're just trying to collect more feedback than just on our annual survey. So please make sure, again, even if you're leaving early, just please make sure that you fill that out for us. And you can leave it on your chair, you can leave it out on the table out in the hallway. So some of the results, some of the things we saw. This part of it was probably one of my favorite. I solicited some feedback from our partners. If you ever are so moved that you're like, oh, that was awesome, or I think that the AOD Partnership is great because of this. We love compliments. And we'll include you possibly in next year's report. But if you have anything to say, if you have any feedback, that's something that's very important to us to collect. So this is just some of the feedback that we got back from some of our partners throughout the community. And then just some of the basic messages. Out front we have our new AOD Partnership brochures. that were also part of our Kinsey Green partnership. They look like this. If you haven't seen them before, make sure you pick one up. They're awesome, I think. I'm biased. But they're a little bit unusual. They open up in many fun ways, and then you got to try to figure out how to pull it back together. But we have these. We have a ton of these available. If you have some organization or some board or some group that you think would love to hear about the great work of the AOD Partnership, we have annual reports. We have these. We have this information. We can share them with you. We can come out and talk about the group there. And also one of our goals. Thank you. Ethel's my assistant here today. We started, like Bob said, we set up the AOD Partnership Fund. So we can have, if people can't get involved in the work, if they want to get involved somehow, we give an option of people to be able to do some donations online as well. So there are donation envelopes out there too. So please help yourself to any of that as we go along. And we are going to be putting this, we haven't uploaded it yet, but we are going to be putting this annual report online, so you can link it. If you're one of the organizations that's heavily involved in our group, in our work, you can link it, the annual report right to your site as well. And we can help you out with that. Is there any questions on the annual report? Hopefully you all like it. It looks nice. For some reason I did put the agenda on my flash drive, so that's not helpful. I apologize. So we can't show it, but you guys should all have it in front of you. If there's no copies on the end or questions, as far as stat and volunteer opportunities, you have the stat sheets in front of you. They're on the back side of your agenda. If you don't have, if you brought your own agenda and you need one, I don't know where Aaron, where did you put the extra copies out in the hall? There's extra copies out in the hall, but you can see there's a variety of things to get involved with. A couple of things that we moved, though, just to take note as far as volunteer opportunities. We moved our Western Marathon County outreach to a volunteer opportunity because this group, which Aaron is a part of, has come together around this issue. And they're looking at forming a coalition out there, and you know, we're helping them in shaping their coalition. So it's no longer a stat to get it up and going. They're going. We still need people. If you work out there, if you live out there, if you know people out there, connect them up with Aaron or Mandy, who's another staff person for this coalition, because they're looking for partners to get involved.
When you say Western, is that like Anchorage?
Yep. Yep. So it'd be all the municipalities west of 51, essentially. Another thing on there, and that's specifically on your agenda, is advocacy opportunities. We have the power to make a difference in our community. Margaret Mead said that, never doubt that a small group of people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Some of you may have seen the impaired server ordinance that has passed, that vetoed, and then passed again in the city of Wausau. That is something that, with the AOD Partnership, one of our goals is to reduce the impact of alcohol in the community. We see that as an ordinance that can help us do that. So we're pretty strong in backing it. And we encourage everyone, that discussion is not over. The city of Wausau, and I believe the dates are all on there, the city of Wausau will be inviting industry, inviting people and the community members, inviting law enforcement, everybody to come together, including Weston, who's going to be discussing this ordinance at the end of the month, to a meeting on February 17th. The community is encouraged to attend. If you want to come listen, if you want to come voice any concerns, if you want to come say whatever you want to say, or you just want to come and listen, it's an open meeting, and we encourage you guys, to take that opportunity and flex your advocacy muscles. If you have any questions about what the ordinance is, if you want to get a sneak peek on what happened with social media, we collected some feedback right after it passed. There's actually some fact sheets again in the hallway. If you haven't seen it, there's some out there. Otherwise, one tip, if you ever want to get some handouts from our meetings, like prior to the meetings or after the meetings, we usually upload them to our AODpartnership.org calendar. Go click on the date and you'll see these handouts. You'll see all the handouts. So that is another volunteer opportunity from that page. Am I missing anything here? Okay. We do have some stat meetings coming up, so just pay attention to that. Youth for Youth Stat, we meet every other week. We do meet tomorrow. In that, it's a special meeting. We canceled last week. Sorry, Judy, who went to the meeting, and I didn't tell her I canceled it. But it's a very active group, and our opiate stat's going to be meeting this month as well. So I think that that is all for stat and volunteer updates. And Destiny already mentioned about the tobacco update, so make sure, again, you sign in and you indicate that on the sign-in sheet if you're interested. With that, any other partner updates? Joanne?
If you can see on the table out in the hallway, there are full reports. The life report is available now. It was launched a couple weeks ago. We also have snapshots out there that look like this. If there aren't any left, the full report is on United Way's website, unitedwaymc.org, or you can pick copies up at the United Way office. If you have a large group that you would like to get full reports out to, just let us know. We can prepare a box for you and have them available at the office for pickup.
Yes.
And in the community, I'm sharing a documentary from 1996 called In Our Image, Poverty in Wisconsin. I had 2 viewings at Little Winemaker, Wisconsin, one at the library, and 2 more coming up February 11th and February 27th. So it's kind of getting a historical perspective on different changes that have happened.
Melissa, can I share one other update?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Okay. Super Tax Saturday is February 15th. That will be here in this building. Don't pay to have your taxes done if you make less than $51,000 a year. They can be done here for absolutely no cost. So there's flyers out front. Please take a stack, give them out, get them out in the community. AARP certified volunteers do the tax prep. They're wonderful. Our evaluations from prior years, we haven't had a single person who hasn't said that they haven't had a wonderful experience. So please get your taxes done for free. Call 211 for an appointment.
And I just had a question for Joanne. That wonderful, when you did the life report and you had the speaker, is that available anywhere to be viewed?
I believe it will be eventually. He sent the slides, but I don't believe there was audio with it. So I believe they were trying to work through to see if they could get the audio that went along with it. But it will be eventually. He was an incredible speaker, yes.
And for those of you that weren't there, the speaker, when they released the life report last 2 weeks ago almost now, spoke about the impact of adverse childhood traumas on children and how it can impact their future behavioral, mental, physical health. And it was fantastic. So if when it does end up being able to be streamed, we will make sure that we share that link through our update as well. Any other updates? Okay, Katie. I joke about Katie does a really good job of speaking and she can introduce herself.
But what I probably can't do is work the computer. So thanks for walking away.
Oh, you have to hit start the slideshow. In the middle. There.
So I became really, I'm completely used to a Mac now. I did the hard transition over to a Mac and now I can't go back to a PC. So I'm struggling. My name is Katie Dudley and I work for Montana State University Center for Health and Safety Culture, but I work and live here in Wausau. I'm a member of the AOD Partnership Council and I have been for years. My background is public health. I know it's kind of weird that I work for Montana State University, but in my previous position, I was working in Minneapolis at their statewide drug and alcohol prevention resource center. And I became familiar with this model of public health that Montana State University was doing, and they were really doing it, implementing this model heavily in Minnesota. And so I became acquainted with the model, and then Jeff Lindenbach, the director of the Center for Health and Safety Culture, asked me to start working for him. And at that time, I was able to move home to Wausau and to work from here, and so I jumped at the opportunity. So I do work out of my home here in town, but I work with communities across the country in implementing positive community norms. And so these are the communities that I work with, and they're just like us, which I think is super fascinating because I'm able to go back and talk to the communities that I work with and say, oh my gosh, we're working on heroin issues too. We're working on this and doing that. So it's really fun for me to be able to see how many differences there are in communities when we're talking about drug and alcohol prevention, but also a whole lot of similarities across the country. in what we're addressing. But at the Center for Health and Safety Culture, what I'm going to share with you today is a little bit about what positive community norms is, but particularly relating to how our perceptions influence behaviors and attitudes.
Oh, it actually has been recorded. Sorry.
That's all right. Okay, so at the Center for Health and Safety Culture, here's our mission. Here's kind of how we see the world operating. We believe that improving health and safety is all about growing the positive norms that already exist in communities. All communities have positive, healthy norms. We believe that it's about growing those positive norms and cultivating cultural transformation. We talk about transforming our culture around alcohol often in this room. I know we do. And that's an essential part of the puzzle. We really have to start taking a look at how we're shifting our culture around the topics that we're seeking to address. So let's break that down a little bit. When we talk about what culture is, I think we're familiar with this, but I just want to get us all on the same page. It's a shared set of values, beliefs, attitudes, behaviors of a group of people, and we can define that group of people in a number of ways. We have a specific culture here in Wausau, or here in Wisconsin specifically. I was amazed living right next door in Minnesota. They have a completely different culture than we do here. It's very odd to me that we seem so similar, but there very much is a different culture. You know, culture exists geographically, it exists for different ethnicities of people, it exists for your organization. I worked for the health department here in town. The health department has a very different culture than a law enforcement agency, than the university that I work with now. Culture, it's defined, it's our set of values, or beliefs, or attitudes of a group of people. And we talk about culture and transforming culture. It's interesting because I think we typically look at it in terms of culture influencing people and how people act, right? Our culture here in Wisconsin definitely plays a role in how we behave. It influences the individual. But we have to look at it differently too, because individuals absolutely influence culture. And Melissa just said it, the Margaret Mead quote, right? Individuals absolutely impact the culture in which they live, especially collectively in a group like this, in a coalition. So don't underestimate the power of this group right here in this room. So that's culture. And when we talk about cultural transformation, we're familiar with what transformation is. We're familiar with the concept of a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. But the main point here is that transformation is one directional. We're looking for transformation on the issues that we're working with, but we're looking to just that, transform, fundamentally be different at the other end of transformation. That's different than change. Change is two-directional. Our substance abuse rates in Marathon County can go up. They can go back down. That's change. When we're looking at transformation, we're looking at we are fundamentally different on this topic area. That's what we're looking for. It's one directional. Once transformed, we can never go back. And it doesn't happen overnight, unfortunately. This won't happen likely in a year in Marathon County if we're looking to transform our culture on substance abuse, on alcohol particularly. It takes time. This caterpillar didn't transform into a butterfly overnight. It absolutely went through this cocoon-like phase. And there was struggle in that, and communities struggle in transformation. It takes a long time, and it's a struggle. And for individuals, you can only transform yourself. Unfortunately, we can't walk into this room and say, okay, folks, us as a coalition, we are going to transform Marathon County. We can only transform ourselves and how we look at the situation. So you might ask, well, then how do I do it for the whole community? How can I transform Marathon County in terms of alcohol or drug use? We can create conditions in which transformation is more likely in other people. So we as leaders can create conditions in others that make it more likely for them to transform. And how do you do that? You do that by asking questions, actually. Starting to challenge how people see the world operating, starting to challenge their perceptions of how they view the world is how we start transformation within others. Here's one question. Now here is a transformational question, a question that I was probably asked, no lie, 30 times before I ever thought about it in terms of myself. I assumed I was effective. Of course I was effective. I was helping communities implement evidence-based curriculum. The curriculum was effective, therefore I was effective. And it wasn't really until one day that somebody asked me this question again that it started to challenge how I saw myself operating. Are we busy or are we effective? Of course we're busy. I heard people talk about that in the room as they were coming in. Hey, how have you been? Oh, I'm so busy. Everything's so busy at work. And then my challenge back to you would say, are you also effective? Are you doing the same things over and over again just because you've always done them? Or are you really seeking an effort to be effective? And I think that that's a really good question for us to ask ourselves as a coalition. Are we continually doing the same programs and activities over and over again because the youth like them, because the parents like them, because the community likes them? Are we really taking a look at, are they effective? Are they really creating the transformation that we want in this community? So with that, I'm going to ask you a couple of more questions. Pick up, I know a couple of you didn't get them, pick up those clickers in front of you that I handed out, those little things that look like calculators. Did anybody not get one? Thanks.
Anybody
There's
else?
a bunch more.
One?
So let me explain the clickers for a minute. I am not going to be able to show you what I want to show you because it's hooked up to my computer and we couldn't get it working. But it's still going to work. I just need to tell you about it. So have people ever worked with clickers before? They're kind of fun. So I'm going to ask you a set of questions, multiple choice questions, and without talking to others, I want you to honestly respond to these questions. They're going to be multiple choice, and you simply just push the button that, of the response that you want to choose. Here's a couple things. One, you can't stuff the ballot. You can only answer once. Well, you can answer 30 times, but it is only going to accept your last response. So if you want A to win, you can't push A 15 times hoping that your vote goes through 15 times. It'll only take your last response. So if you want to change your answers, that's fine. It's only going to take your last response. I will open the poll. You will see a green light will go on. When I open the poll, you are free to put in your submissions. I will close the poll, and it's going to tally up. Oh, no, you're not going to see it. I'm going to see it. It's going to tally everything for me. I will read out what the results are. Oh, shoot. Now that I'm thinking about it. This might be a little difficult. But either way, we're going to try it. We're going to try it. Okay. So let me think about this, that you can't see it.
Oh, here. Why don't we use this?
Well, okay, what I have is here is the answer. Okay, the first question I want to ask you, how old are you? How old are you?
Can't get it up.
Answer stem number 1. So answer 1.
Use this.
Okay.
Don't put it on the board.
I know, it makes me really nervous. The big directions are don't write on the board.
I got
With
the
a special marker.
I got the magic pen.
Okay, 1, 21 and younger. Ooh, cool. 2, 22 to 29. 3, 30 to 39. 4, 40 to 49. 50 to 59, and 60 plus. So I have opened the poll. Go ahead and submit all your responses. I can see them tallying. We have 20, 21, 23. I have 35 responses.
Do you have to hit go after you?
Nope. Nope, you just have to push the number. You should see a light pop up. I don't know how many people are in the room, but I have 37 responses. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close the poll. All right, I'm just going to walk around just so you guys can see what this looks like. This is how this software works. So you can see kind of how we're distributed in the room. And I don't care at all how old you are. I simply just wanted you to learn how to use the clickers. Okay. We're really evenly dispersed in this room. I like that. I like seeing that with coalition. Okay. So here's the first question. Here's the good first question. Number 1. And here, Melissa, you can see it behind me.
I'm ready.
Just read, look. How has drinking So how has drinking among U.S. 12th graders changed in the last 25 years? Drinking among 12th graders. Has it increased significantly? Increased slightly? Has it stayed the same? Decreased slightly or decreased significantly? Go ahead and the poll is open.
In the last how many years?
25. Drinking among U.S. 12th graders.
So there's only 5 options.
That is correct, 5 options. And we're going to use these same answer stems for a little bit here, so that's good. All right, I have 38, 39, a couple more, going once, going twice. All right, yeah, sounds good, thanks. 35%. So 35%, 20%, 15%, 25, and 5. Interesting. So 55% of us, the norm in the room,
Can I see that okay if I do it like that?
the norm in the room, 55%, was that alcohol use had increased over the past 25 years. Now here's the hard part. I wish the results I could show you here. What we know from monitoring the future, which is the longest data set that we have for alcohol, for substance abuse among youth in the country, is that substance use or alcohol use among 12th graders has actually significantly decreased over the past 20 years, 25 years. So this is monitoring the future. If you're familiar with that data set, again, the longest trend data. Interesting. Okay. So where it's been, it's at about 70% in 1975, all the way down to about 50% 30-day use. We're just going to leave it. I'm sorry, you guys. This is much easier when you can see it all. All right, so I'm going to go to the next question. Now we're going to flip it to more local, Wisconsin, okay? So how has drinking among Wisconsin high school students, so this is 9 through 12, how has that changed in the past 20 years? Now we're talking about Wisconsin. How is drinking, same answer stems. Has it, no, I'm sorry, the first one is increased, Melissa?
Oops. Oh, please. My memory is short.
Has it increased significantly, increased slightly, stayed the same, decreased slightly, or decreased significantly? And the poll is open.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, how has drinking among Wisconsin high school students changed in the last 20 years? So again, what kind of trends are we looking at? So I'd leave those up for good now. Okay, going once, going twice, I've got 38 responses. So in the room, 13, I would just maybe write these to the side. 13, 42, 24, 18, and 3. Interesting. So I'm horrible at math in public, but 55% thinking it has increased over the last 20 years. Let's take a look. From the I know this is hard, guys, sorry. The Youth Risk Behavior Survey, I just took this right out of the the DPI website yesterday. We have decreased in the last 20 years. This is the YRBS, the CDC's Youth Risk Behavior Survey that our schools in Wisconsin participate in.
So what is the actual?
So the numbers went from 48% in 1993 to 39%. So it's gone down. Is it where we want it to be? No, it's not where we want it to be, but it's interesting for us to be aware of what the trends are. Here's the next question. Same answer stems. How has the number of youth reporting drinking at age 13 or younger changed in the last 10 years? Youth drinking at age 13 or younger changed in the past 10 years. U.S. youth. This is U.S.
You said 1300?
Yep, 13 or younger. And the reason I put that is, we know in the room, early initiation of alcohol use absolutely impacts chemical dependency later on. All right, the polls are open. All right, going once, going twice. I'm stopping. All right. 11.
Magic numbers here.
11, 39, 19, 17, and 14. So we're kind of split on this one. More people thinking it's increased than decreased. Let's take a look. We went in 2002, actually 2001, it's 29%. And in 2011, it is 20%. Interesting. Again, is this where we want it to be? No. But it's interesting to know, to really be aware of what the trends are out there. And then I'm going to have two more. How is the drinking? Now we're just going to do the same question, but we're going to relate it to Wisconsin. Make it more local. How is the number of youth reporting drinking 13 or younger changed in Wisconsin in the past 20 years? I have data for 20 years. You can see what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to just capture what your thoughts are in the room about what the current trends are.
Did you answer?
It is open. Yep. We've got 38. All right, I'm going to close it.
I don't have an opinion.
All right, so we have 2, 41, 17, 32, and 7. In Wisconsin, it's the same trend. It's a little bit less remarkable, but we have significantly decreased over time as well. In 1993, we went from 37% drinking at 13 or younger to 19%. 37 to 19% in 2011. Again, do we want 19% of our youth drinking at 13 or younger? No, but it's interesting to know what the numbers currently are so we can do our jobs as people engaged in these issues. And then the last question for you at this time is, and this is going to be a different answer stem, Melissa. And you can look at, I know, but it's an easy one. What country has the lowest binge drinking rate among 10th graders? We just happen to have 10th grade data. Which country has the lowest binge drinking rate? Is it 1, France, 2, Germany, 3, Italy, France, Germany, Italy, 4, the United Kingdom, or 5, the US? Poll is open. Which country has the lowest binge drinking rate? The lowest binge drinking rate. France, Germany, Italy, United Kingdom, or the United States?
Youth binge, right?
Yes, youth binge, 10th graders. Oh, funny, I can see that up here. And I'm sorry, guys, this is much smoother if you have the thing. I'm going to close the poll. What we thought is here. Ooh, we're totally, you don't even need to write it. We are completely split. Across the board, we all thought something different. Isn't that interesting?
Indeed.
I'm not lying.
You're ready to go.
Yeah, maybe. Germany. Oh, well.
Oh, which one's the top?
Let me just tell you. Germany's number 1. At binge drinking, they're about 58%. United Kingdom comes in second at about 55%. Italy comes in third at about 35%. Behind France at about 28%. And about 22% for the US. So if you're a prevention person like me, we have heard, have you ever heard, Melissa, people say we should adopt European drinking models. It's safer there. They have less issues with alcohol. That's actually a complete myth. That isn't true. They have severe issues with alcoholism and different drug dependency in Europe. In America, we've done some pretty amazing things in terms of policies relating to alcohol use and starting drinking at age 21, and they really are helpful.
I'm messing it all up.
Okay, we're done.
Okay, good.
It's the United States has the lowest. The US is 22%.
So this is actual, what was their response?
Across the board. Everybody, the whole room was split on what you thought was the lowest.
Shall I re-raise? I don't know if you shift that advance, if it gets rid of it.
It does. So what does this mean? Why did I run through that with you? My team, the team that I work with, we study a lot of researchers, we study a lot of philosophers, and something has come up in our research about Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, a great thinker, did his thinking best, or did all of his work best by asking questions. He asked really good questions. And so somebody asked him, what was the most, out of all the questions that you've ever asked, what was the most important question to consider? And he thought about it, and this was his response. Is the universe a friendly place? He felt that how you choose to answer this question had profound impact on how you lived your life. Whether or not you saw the world as a positive, hopeful, friendly kind of place, guided your actions in one direction versus whether or not you saw the world as a frightening, scary, hopeless kind of place. That you lived your life quite differently if that was your thought. At the Center for Health and Safety Culture, we believe that the positive exists and that it's worth growing, that that's our role as preventionists. That we believe that the positive exists in our communities, in the youth that we serve, in the people in our treatment centers, that the positive exists and it's our role to grow that, grow those habits and those behaviors. We believe that if you want health, you've got to promote health. If you want health, you have to promote health. And that begs the question about our different types of approaches. And here's where I'm going to get a little bit into the fear-based approach versus a hope-based approach, a scare tactic type approach versus a hope-based approach. And for this discussion, I'm going to draw a very clear dichotomy between two different approaches. It's not often that black, or sometimes it's that black and white, but not always. But for this purpose of this presentation, I'm going to draw a very clear difference between a scare tactic type of approach to solving our issues versus a hope-based approach. So there is a core assumption about scare tactics, and that is that if I scare you bad enough, you will no longer engage in those behaviors, right? I'm going to scare the health into you, scared straight. But the question is, are they effective? Are they effective? And I would add another question on there. Not only are they effective, but do they have unintended outcomes? So I am going to show you a handful of slides, and there's a bunch of research at the bottom of them. Don't bother writing this down. I can email you if you want to come up to me after. I can email you these reports. Melissa sent a couple of reports out.
Yeah, and we can post some of this stuff online.
Okay. So fear problems actually, based on the research, I went to school, I got my master's in public health 10 years ago, and the research was pretty clear then that scare tactics actually do not work to change behavior long term. And isn't that what we're in for this? Transformation of the behaviors that we're seeking to address. So let's take a look at this first banner. This is a banner that is geared towards college students. It says chugging can kill. It's an absolute accurate statement, isn't it? It is. The overconsumption of alcohol absolutely does kill individuals. Now, in full disclosure, I used to distribute this poster in my last job. I used to do it all the time. I was a research center for drug and alcohol prevention, and universities used to call me all the time because they loved this banner. It's a banner. And universities around Minnesota particularly, because I worked in Minnesota, used to hang this up campus-wide at the start of new semesters. And so we started to think about it, and I started to do more research on scare-type approaches, and what I've learned is that they can actually make the problem worse. So when you start to take a look at this particular banner, what kinds of things might we glean from just looking at the image? Might we think that this is, a common male behavior, that the friends cheer that behavior on, that they support that behavior, that it happens from like hard alcohol versus beer? There are some generalizations that we can make based on this banner. But another thing, if you're 18 years old and you're walking onto campus for the first time, let's say, fall semester, and this banner is plastered all over campus, what might you infer about that campus? It is a party campus. Boy, there's a lot of drinking going on in this campus. And I might want to fit in. Right, that's just it. Might we absolutely, unintentionally, start to create an environment where it looks like this is the prevalent behavior on campus? When we start to plaster these messages all over? Absolutely not intended. I guarantee you the prevention folks on campus, that was not their goal. But might people have perceived that to be the case when this is plastered all over campus? Here's another one. This is a billboard. Who's familiar with the Montana Meth Project? I've never been in a room where nobody has raised their hand.
There's a very good chance you have indeed seen.
Probably, just for example.
From it. You can pull it up at the end.
So the Montana Meth Project, I'm pleased to hear that you're not familiar with it. It is not Montana State University. We just happen to be in the same state. But this is a privately funded, one individual gave millions and millions of dollars towards methamphetamine prevention in the state of Montana. And he guided their efforts. And he's a businessman, a wealthy businessman. And he took a scare tactic approach. And probably the scariest scare tactic approach I've ever seen out of any prevention materials. This particular billboard is a complement piece to a TV PSA. They are horribly graphic. I've seen the whole onslaught of them. The TV PSA is where a young man walks into the kitchen and he sees his mom's purse on the counter and he reaches in her purse to grab like $10. And she walks in behind him and she asks what he's doing. Well, he's taking the money to support his meth habit, supposedly. And she walks in and catches him and asks what he's doing, and he turns around and he beats her up. And so it says, my mom knows I'd never hurt her, then she got in the way. Well, that is just one of the ads. It is incredibly violent. All of their ads are. A couple of interesting things that they did with the Montana Meth Campaign is they did a lot of evaluation around it. One thing that I found really fascinating in their evaluation is that at baseline, so before they ever released any of their messages, they asked adults. They did a statewide survey of adults, and they said, if you found out that your child was using methamphetamine, who would you contact? Who would you talk to? Overwhelmingly, these folks were going to talk to their spouse, they were going to talk to their schools, they were going to talk to the healthcare providers, their clergy, treatment providers. They were going to get help. They went for a year running the ads, an assortment of ads, and they went back and they asked the same question of adults, again across the state, random study. And they said, if you found out that your child was using meth, who would you talk to? And nobody wanted to talk. They had effectively demonized the meth user that nobody wanted to admit that that child could be theirs. Who wants to admit that they have this demon child? So is that really what we want in our communities? Do we want to create this, us against them, good versus bad? Fear appeals have unintended outcomes. They label and stigmatize groups. Aren't we in this, as this coalition, to build support in this community, to find treatment, to find solutions, and to embrace the people and find them the support that they need? Fear tactics can label and stigmatize those groups. They can expand social gaps in our communities, and they promote poor health as a value. When you start to see those billboards and those banners all over, let's say, Wausau, what does that look like then to people coming into town? Do we look like a healthy, proud community when you see those all over town? It's just something to think about. It's kind of interesting. And I think probably most importantly, and it's not up here, it's in other research, is that they're extremely hard to sustain. Scare tactics are extremely hard to sustain because once you've scared someone, what do you have to do the next time? Scare them worse. You have to scare them worse the next time. And at what point have you become so scary that people either leave the room or you become so, uncredible as a source of information that they don't even believe you and they walk away? You think about horror films from like the 70s, and they're funny now based on the horror films that we have today. You have to keep upping the ante. And there is a point where people tune out your message, and those efforts aren't sustained over time. So there's a difference between hope-based approaches and fear-based approaches. Fear-based approaches, we're coming more from a pushing somebody away from somebody versus a hope-based approach where we're trying to influence somebody, promoting health as the value in our community. But I need to draw a very clear distinction between the difference between concern and fear. Do you guys think that there is a difference between concern and fear?
Sorry.
It's okay, you can laugh at it. I think it's funny. That's why I put it there. Is there a difference between concern? Is there a difference between concern and hope? Or concern and fear? What do you think? What sort of are the feelings that you get from fear? Anxiety, anxious. Avoidance. Judgment. Interesting, yeah. What about concern? What are those feelings that you get from concern?
You want to help.
You want to help. Caring.
Want to know more, not less.
You want to learn. That's interesting. You want to learn more versus like fear. I don't want to know anymore. Like get me out of that situation. So I think that is a really good conversation to have. Concern is important. Establishing concern in a community about the issues that we're trying to address and the consequences about those risky behaviors is really important. But there is a way to do it without scaring somebody. And that balance with hope. We have to have hope. We have to have hope as a committed group of people in this room. How many people have been in the field? I know a couple of you have. How many people have been in the field for 20 years or more? Would you still be in this field for 20 years or more if you didn't have hope? Yeah. No. We've got to have hope not only as individuals to keep our energies going, because this is, what does Joan Toyer always say? These are decade issues that we're working on. We have to have that energy, and hope gives us energy to keep working. And if we were constantly going around scaring folks, who would want to live in Wausau? Who would want to be part of the AOD partnership if we kept scaring them about how horrible our community was?
If you take that extra step, go like from that fear, that's abuse.
Yeah, interesting point. Say it louder.
To take that next step, when people are continuously living in fear, or if you're afraid of something, that's abuse. Okay?
It's interesting.
I think it's a lot of it is a type of control mechanism.
Yeah, that's exactly what that was saying.
Rather than inform or educate.
Inform and educate, yeah. I think that those are really good points. And so research would say we actually need a balance here. We need to share the concern about why these issues are serious, why these risks are here, and then, oh, by the way, we have solutions. We can work together and we can make a difference on this issue. I think that this video does it beautifully, and I just want to share it with you as a way that a group has done this. You might have seen this. Oh, where's the volume? Did I test the volume? No.
It's on the wall.
All right, great.
That's good. There's no talking. Brilliant. I can say that because my team had absolutely nothing to do with it. Okay, now. So that piece, you may have seen it before. It went viral on YouTube. Was it entirely positive? No. Did you feel the concern about it? It had that sense of concern where we knew what was going to happen here, there was going to be an impact, and then also they really fed into our value system and our structure, what's important to us, and keeping that kind of in the frame, the family, the love, and that supportive environment. We wanted, my team wanted to know more about this group and what this was all about, and so we called them the Sussex Safer Roads. It's in the United Kingdom. And when we talked to the man who developed this was actually a coalition. It started out as a coalition, it kind of grew from there. We asked them, why did they create this? What was behind this? And they said that Great Britain had launched this huge national campaign on seatbelt use. And what they did, it was horribly graphic. They kind of showed very graphically what happens inside the human body when you don't have a seatbelt on and you have the impact of a crash. And they showed the individual hitting the steering wheel, going through the windshield, and a rib breaking, and it went through the spleen, and the spleen ruptured. And what they found through a lot of evaluation, it was so scary that people were leaving the room. When the commercial came out, people were just leaving the room, and they thought, what a waste of resources. We can do so much more. We can grab people's attention and still give them the message in a new way. And so that they came up with this. They had a huge budget for production, but they had absolutely $0 to place it. So they created it, and their target, their focus audience for this was all men of driving ages speaking multiple languages. So you can imagine how difficult that was. So they made no words, obviously. And they had zero budget for placement. So they put it on YouTube, and it went viral. And so now it's got millions and millions of hits. But an interesting way to balance that hope and concern, it can be done. I'm going to skip over that one. So that's the positive. Let's talk about the communities, and then we'll get into norms and perceptions. And my goal about talking about community here is just about how we really need to start to take a look at the different layers of influence in a community. Imagine this young man is part of our focused population. Young people often are, high school kids, youth are often our efforts as a community coalition. So imagine that this young man is part of our focused population. What we know from an individual, he's an individual, is that they very much are guided, they're influenced by their family, aren't they? Their behaviors, their actions, their beliefs are impacted and influenced by their family. We also know that they're influenced by their peers, right? They're influenced by their school system, by the organizations that they belong to. If our focus population was adults, they're very much influenced by the organizations they work for. And they're also greatly influenced by their community at large, that culture that I talked about earlier, policies, protocols in the community. This is the social ecology. You may have seen this before in your work, and my reason for bringing it up is a couple of reasons. One is that often communities focus in on this individual. We focus right on that group of youth. We're going to give them education, we're going to inform them about the risks associated with these things, and then we've done our job and we're going to be done. It's not enough. We really need to be taking a look at these other layers of the community because they have profound influence on our focused population. If we were giving an education, let's say all ninth graders in the Wausau School District are going to have a drug education program, okay? They're all going to get it. That's education. That's an individual level strategy. What happens if we haven't worked on these other layers of the social ecology? What's going to happen when that ninth grade curriculum goes away? They're still going to be influenced by their, by their peers and their parents. We really need to start to take a look at these other layers of the social ecology. And Melissa has probably shown you this before.
I don't know if I did in the whole group or not.
All right, we're going to do it right now. Now's the chance. So it's actually Kansas University came up with the 7 strategies to affect community change. This is what DFC communities work with. These are how we affect community change. 7 strategies. Communities all too often focus on 1, 2, and 3. We provide information, we provide skills, training, and we provide support. These are very much influenced at the individual level. We're trying to affect change on an individual. And I'm always trying to steer communities towards starting to look more, and ourselves too, we're doing this here. Oh my gosh, when you touch something, it changes. Don't look at what's ahead. We really need to start focusing in on 4 through 7, starting to take a look at the environment here.
Environmental strategies, enhancing access. Maybe this is to treatment, maybe this is to services and reducing those barriers, changing the consequences associated with some of these risky behaviors, changing the physical design of our community, modifying, changing policies. And I have to be honest, I brag a lot to other coalitions about this coalition because I think we do pretty amazing in terms of policy change here, I think especially in the past couple of years. So the goal here, just my reason of bringing this up, is that we really need to take a look at the larger community because they have significant influence on our focus population. And it's not enough. It takes a mix of strategies. It's not just one strategy. It's not just education for that individual, but it's really starting to take a look at how we can affect change in these multiple layers of the social ecology to have an influence on the issue that we're trying to address, to create that cultural lasting change.
That information is on our website, so if you want to get more information on the same strategies, you can find it there.
So that's the community when I talk about positive community norms. And lastly, I want to talk about norms. I'm going to spend the remainder of the presentation talking about norms. Yeah, let's just pretend for a second. Yeah. Okay, so pretend we're gonna do the clickers. Actually, I can just open the poll. So grab your clickers again. I'm gonna ask a question. What percentage of Wisconsin adults have had 5 or more drinks in the last 30 days? What percentage of Wisconsin adults have had 5 or more drinks in a row, binge drinking, in the last 30 days? Do you think it's 1, 0 to 20%, 2, 21 to 40%, 3, 41 to 60%, 61 to 80%, or over 80%? So 0 to 20. Do it on this maybe. 21 to 40. 40 to 60 is 3. 4 would be 61 to 80, and over 80 is response 5.
I would do it on that one, but then we actually I don't have any markers.
All right, we've got 27, 8, 9, 30. All right, going once, going twice, I have 40 responses. So in the room, we felt overwhelmingly, we thought it was somewhere between 21 to 40% and 41 to 60%. So in reality, it's actually 24% of Wisconsin adults have engaged in that binge drinking behavior in the last 30 days. This is from the Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System. That means, and we're the #1 binge drinking state, aren't we? The #1 state in the country. 24% of adults. If you flip that, that means that 76% of adults in our state are making the healthy decision to not engage in this risky behavior. 76%. We always hear we're #1. Wisconsin's always the worst at everything. Well, drinking in particular, or the best, however you look at that. 76% are not engaging in that risky behavior. Perception is everything. So therefore, too, is misperception, meaning that what we see as real is absolutely real for us. What we see as real in our communities, in the youth that we serve, what we believe to be real is absolutely real for us. Perception is everything. People live with a lot of wrong perceptions, ideas, and notions, and when they invest their lives in them, it can get dangerous. So I want to talk, our framework is made up of several different foundations, but I want to talk about today is social norms theory and how perceptions play a role in our behaviors, our perceptions of the norm. But first I'm going to explain what the norm is so that we can all be together on the same page here. So the norm is the actual attitude or behavior of the majority of people. It's what most people are doing or what most people are believing. We can get this on a survey by saying, like, how often do you smoke? That would capture the norm, the actual behavior or attitude of the majority. And now that's different than the perceived norm, because the perceived norm is our perception of what most people are doing. It's what we think most people are doing. We can also ask this on a survey. How often do you smoke? How often do you think most students in your school smoke? It's our perception of what others are doing. And often between the two, there's a gap. We often overperceive risky behaviors of our peers, and we underperceive the protective behaviors. How many people are wearing their helmets, their seatbelts? We underperceive those. And we overperceive the risky behaviors. And the reason that's important, oh, let me give you an example. So first, for this one, we asked students, this is high school students, how often do you drink alcohol? The norm, meaning anything over than 51%, the majority. So here, in this case, 68% drink alcohol less than once a month. Okay? 68% of the students drink alcohol less than once per month. We asked what the perceived norm is. How often do you think most students drink alcohol? 92% of those students, 92% of students felt that most other students were drinking monthly or more. Do you see the difference? 68% were not drinking monthly. 92% felt that most students in their school were drinking monthly or more. That's a huge gap. The reason that's important is that social norms theory tells us that we tend to do or believe what we think other people are doing or believing. But unfortunately, we're usually wrong. We overperceive risky behaviors and we underperceive protective behaviors. So our role is to have more accurate perceptions of what's really going on, therefore the reasons behind the clicker questions that I was giving you guys before. So let's give a number to it. So how much at risk are we if we have a misperception? What does it mean? Is it really that important, perceptions? I'm going to give you just a couple of data points from some communities that I work with. The biggest project that we work on is in the state of Minnesota. We are able to pull out 10 communities that are actively engaging in this process, and we can compare them to the rest of the state who are not. So it's pretty neat that we have some control groups here. What we found across the 10 grades in Minnesota is that 85% of Minnesota high school students drank alcohol less than monthly. So it was a good, healthy behavior. Drinking alcohol less than once a month. However, 48% of those students felt that most students were drinking monthly or more. So there's a big misperception there. And those students who had that misperception were 5 times more likely to drink. Having that misperception, thinking that most of your peers were drinking, that risk ratio was 5 times. So they were 5 times more likely to drink themselves if they misperceived their peers' use. I'm just going to give you one more of these, and it's about drinking and driving. 88% report never drinking and driving. These are 11th and 12th graders because that's the driving age. 88% report never doing it. 71% of students thought most of their peers did. Isn't that interesting? And they were 2.6 times more likely to engage in that behavior themselves. When you do the risk ratio analysis, it really is interesting because it puts that perception, it quantifies that misperception. It tells you how much more likely you are to engage in that behavior. We've got this across several communities. I just picked Minnesota, and I only picked a couple of data points so I could share with you. But it's not just perception of peers' use, it's perceptions of attitudes and things like that that are also important. So in the same data set, we took a look at perception of risk. We know we thought perception of risk was important. We wanted to quantify it. Students were 2.6 times less likely to report monthly drinking if they perceived risk of binge drinking. Interesting. So if they felt that binge drinking was risky, they were 2.6 times less likely to drink themselves. So having a perception of risk is good. We want students to think that alcohol and drug use is risky. That impacts their behavior. Students were 6.9 times less likely to report ever using marijuana if they felt that there was moderate or, oh darn it, it's too smart for me. If they thought there was moderate or great risk of smoking marijuana frequently. Again, establishing that concern, establishing that risk is important. And I think lastly, students who perceive that most would rather not drink when hanging out with their friends. We ask them, what do you like? Would you rather drink when hanging out with your friends or not drink when hanging out with your friends? Those that perceive that most students would rather not drink when hanging out with their friends were 3.9 times less likely to drink themselves. So attitudes and perceptions matter. And we have a role in crafting those perceptions in our community. And lastly, students who agree with the statement. Students who believe this statement that drinking alcohol is never a good thing for anyone my age to do were 14 times less likely to drink monthly. That's a value that we can impact. We can grow these norms and reduce these risky behaviors. But it's interesting to know which ones impact, which perceptions impact behaviors, because they do. So what can we do about it? We can do one strategy is social norms marketing. I'm just going to show you a couple of examples of what those communities did to correct those misperceptions. So we did all these surveys and we found out that there were great misperceptions in these communities. Well, what do? We can create materials and conversations about what is the norm, what is the healthy norm in those communities. Here's one. This just came out a couple months ago. 6 out of 10 Park Rapids middle school students disapprove of their friends drinking alcohol. Most Little Falls high school students think drinking alcohol is never a good thing for someone their age to do. Have a sweet prom. 8 out of 11, that's Litchfield high school students, would rather not drink when hanging out with friends. They're portraying the normative healthy behavior there, trying to influence those to gravitate toward that healthy behavior. Remember, social norms theory tells us we tend to do or believe what we think most others are doing or believing. So let's tell them what most others are doing or believing. And truth is, 3 out of 4 Long Prairie Great Eagle high school students don't drink alcohol in a typical month. We've also added some parent norms, importance of talking to your kids about not drinking alcohol. And then awesome job, parents. Most Pine River Baptist parents don't allow teens to drink in their home. Correcting that misperception and sharing what the normative healthy behavior is in an effort to reduce those risky behaviors. And then just some data, just in case you wanted to see what the data points were. These are the communities that we're working with in blue. They were selected because they were high-risk communities. Okay, they were high-risk communities. The Department of Human Services funds all 10 of them. They were funded in 2004 to do positive community norms. Here we can see where their difference. These are the rest of the communities in the state of Minnesota. This is the Minnesota Student Survey, statewide survey. You can see that they were continuing to trend upwards. These were high-risk communities. So their use rates, 30-day alcohol, was going up. Then they started a norms clarification process. Let's tell them what the accurate healthy norms are in these schools, and you can see the reduction from there. And they had a 30% reduction from 2004 to 10 compared to 21% in the rest of the state. So it matters. Perceptions do matter. And I won't go over these. These are just 2 other examples of the same thing. It's more than social norms marketing. Social norms marketing is one strategy. We talked about how there has to be different strategies in a community to address the behaviors we're seeking to address. I'm not going to go over this, but this is our framework, and social norms marketing is just simply one of them. But my main point here is that the solutions are in the community. My role, my job at Montana State University is a community guide. Remember I showed you all those communities that I work with on that first map? My role is to walk with them because the solutions are in every community that I work with. It's not that Montana State University comes with all the answers or that the health department has all the answers. The community has the answers. And it's a committed group of people like us in this room. Like Melissa said earlier, the Margaret Mead quote, let's not underestimate our ability to shift culture, because we absolutely can. Thanks, everybody. That's it. Any questions? It was a lot of information in a short period of time. Any questions?
Is this presentation available through our website?
I will get it to Katie, and it's going to be linked to our video, recording, So if you want to share this with others, they can actually view it and see the slides as they go. But yes, you'll actually post it in your...
I will. I just have to get permission that I can share, that I can post the Minnesota data. I just have to get permission from the Human Services, and that should be no problem. Marion?
Katie, have you spoken to groups of media?
Oh yeah, I work with media a lot. Media is awesome to work with because when you ask people what are your sources of misperceptions, they'll say media first. And so our efforts are to work with media early on to start having them craft the story in a way that we want the story to be told. It's our job to tell the story about our community. And it's our job to work with media to help them do so in a way that's meaningful. By definition, I think it's interesting, by definition, the news reports non-norms, right? They report things that aren't normal. If they did report everything that's normal, it'd probably be kind of boring. Everybody went home and had dinner with their kids and read a book and went to bed, you know? By definition, they report non-norms. So when you start hearing, when you watch the 6 o'clock news and then the noon news and then you get it on your Facebook or whatever, you see the same stories, the same non-norms over and over again. You start to have a misperception about how prevalent that behavior is. So working with the media is critical. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things in the past, you know, when I've been involved with social norms, like in the classroom, you know, for example, I taught at DC, and I was talking about social norms, and there was a billboard that appeared that said 4 out of 5 Merrill High School students do not smoke cigarettes. And I had a group of Merrill High School students in my classroom, and they poo-pooed it because they said, you know, we know how those surveys work. They're not answered accurately. You know what I mean?
That's right. I know exactly what you mean because that is, Ron, that is the #1 response that anybody will give you.
Yeah.
Everybody will give you that response first. Why is that? If I have a message that says 4 out of 5, and I've seen the messages at their hockey rink, 4 out of 5 Merrill High School students don't use tobacco. Why would those students challenge you?
Because I challenge their individual perception.
Their perceptions. That's our role. If they believed that piece of media, right, then why are we hanging that media? Then there is no gap in perception versus reality, right? The first thing that they're going to do is challenge the piece of media. The second thing that they're going to do is they're going to shoot holes in your data source. They're going to say everybody lied on the survey. Well, if you have so my role in working with community is probably 90% working on their survey data and getting them really good quality data so that we can stand on a solid foundation of data and say that our numbers are actually accurate. That we've maybe triangulated them with other data sets in the state or in the country to see that they are accurate. Because if you're standing on a poor survey, they could actually be right and you could be wrong. So the data collection is critical in this. Yeah.
And how do you put in those measures on something that's self-reported data?
Yeah, so we did a crosstabs of we did a meta-analysis of self-report data, and what we found that is if 2 different aspects are controlled for in self-report data, then overwhelmingly, like in the high 90%, that self-report data is true. And those 2 things are, one, that there is absolutely confidentiality, meaning that they know where to report their name, no teacher is walking around while they're taking the survey doing this. They hand it into a closed envelope. So that if that condition is met, and then the other condition is if there's a low sense of reprisal, meaning that they don't feel that they could get in trouble for their answers, then overwhelmingly, self-report data is highly accurate. It is. If you look at the research and we also ask on our surveys, we ask students, are you honest on this survey? What is your perception of others' honesty? And they think everybody else lies, but they report that they are honest. And you do a lot of cleaning measures. We have fake drug questions, so we throw out the surveys that they've answered that they've used a fake drug. We throw out the ones that they say that they're lying. So there's a lot. A good survey is very hard to do. A bad survey is very easy to do. But it's important. It's a really important part of the process.
Okay, don't forget to do your evaluations, please, for today. Leave them at your seats. There are extra copies